If we want to go to the deep, deep, for me as a father to daughters, the reason I show up for these men is so they can show up for the women in their lives and the daughters in their lives, and that we can take care of the women, because if we're not doing that, we're not doing anything right.
There's something Matoska always says, the way you raise your girls is important because she's going to end up with someone just like you. And for some men, they're like, holy shit, no, I don't want that. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
And if you have that sentiment, like, I don't want my daughter to be with someone like me, time for the work, time for the inner work, time for the reflection, and not just self-introspection, but time to get reflection from others so that you can be a man worthy of your own daughter, right? Worthy of your own seed.
The world is asking for you to stand up, to show up, to move forward in a new way. The pathway of embodied leadership is here. And where we're going, we go together. Using time-tested masculine frameworks for modern men who are ready to take ownership of their life. Guided by directions, elements, growth edge challenges, weekly rituals, and the 7 pillars of embodiment. Train directly with the leaders of Sacred Sons at Prime Leadership. Grow alongside your brothers in Leadership Training 1, or grow at your own pace with the Embodied Masculine course. Because together, we are more. Join this global movement today.
Grand Rising Sacred Sons, Adam Jackson here, live from Convergence 8, the return in Los Angeles, California. And I'm sitting here with my brother and Sacred Sons co-founder, Neil Christiansen. What's up, bro?
It's working.
It's working. Brothers and sisters, this life is all about invitations and opportunities and what we do with what we have in front of us. And this man sitting next to me, he's a weaver of opportunities. He's a creator of connection. He's a creator of relations within this brotherhood. And he's brought so much to our community. So with that, we're going to get into a conversation specifically around leadership and what it means to be a leader in this work, in this movement. With that, please welcome Sacred Sons co-founder, Neil Christiansen. And you know what I really want to say?
Say it.
You're a father of daughters.
Yes!
And he's a father of daughters.
I don't know how many times Kali tells other fathers and daughters that you're the best that ever did it, but I wear that on my heart.
I see it. It's one of the things I respect about you most. And you know, when we first met, when we first sat down in this way, you had a child on the way, your baby girl, Guyan. And we really connected in those early moments just as young fathers, you know, and being on this journey. And so I would like to talk to you about like the fatherhood journey, the journey of being a husband, a beloved partner, and a leader. Not only a leader out front in the men's work, which we talk about all the time, but like, what does it mean to lead at home? Because ultimately that is where this work leads. How do we bring it home? So with that, let's take a deep breath for ourselves. Everybody at home, breathe along with us. And Neil, from this space of Convergence 8 in Los Angeles, as 250 men join us, what is most alive and present for you?
It has to start with this, my connection to you. You know, we're watching each other grow up. And in that process, we're watching the child of Sacred Sons grow up, which is allowing us to even have this opportunity. Because many convergences before this, we would never even have the space or time to do what we're doing. And stepping into this work with you, it started with me. You brought up my daughter. The reason I found Sacred Sons is because I was stepping into that next threshold of my life experiences, and I needed the connection of brotherhood to hold me. Through the beauty, the challenges, the uncertainties, the fear. And we sat there in Solana Beach to converse about it. I showed up to the first men's circle in San Diego. And it was like, this is it. That's what I experienced. Like, this is what all my relationships, without being able to put my finger on it until that moment, was missing. Authentic relating, connection, love, trust. And if I was to ask my friends, because I've always had friends, I've been in many environments with many groups of friends for many different reasons.
You're a bros bro.
I'm a bros bro. They were stoked on the friendship, but Neil, the little boy inside Neil, knew something was not quite there. And it wasn't until that first experience where I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it. Yeah. As you say that, I'm feeling into the gratitude. Like, this is my check-in. I feel into the gratitude. I asked all the men in opening ceremony, close your eyes and thank whoever you need to thank for being here, for taking the time, for the self-care. So many men don't get this time to leave behind their families, their careers, to really just work on themselves. And like, how profound is that? That a man needs time to go initiate with other men. And so like, for me, to be able to lead out in front, it means that I'm leaving something behind. And I have Hannah and Johan and Holland and Noah holding it down at home. And how much gratitude I feel for their support and all of this, you know, because we talk about leadership, but really it's like, it's not about any one of us. It's about the tapestry that we weave, both with our families, our friendships, and all of our relations, and even how we relate to the earth, you know, as sacred sons. So feeling into that gratitude.
Yeah, I'll say this. Everyone leaves something behind when they step into an experience and an opportunity. Whether you're going on a work trip, a surf trip, a lunch date, but it's how you left that behind.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about leadership and we're talking about fatherhood, we're talking about relationships to our beloved, it's not that Neil came to California while his family's in Portugal. It's how did I leave my family before I came here?
Yeah.
And that's what fucking matters, because if I didn't leave that in a good way,
yeah,
if I didn't feel the love and connection and make sure that my family was supported in being here, I'm not doing anything good for the big game that matters if I'm showing up to this experience because I'm escaping the reality of a challenging situation at home.
Yeah. And how many iterations of this has it taken to like, to arrive at this awareness, you know?
Every time's a ceremony.
Yeah.
The importance of those relationships that I leave behind, because you said it best on a call with Trevor. We're giving up something every time we say yes to another thing. And so when I choose to be here, it's not saying that I'm present in those relationships. I'm choosing to sacrifice that which I know I could be for my family to be here with you. And the most important thing is, how did I make sure my house is in order?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that I've always admired in you, even in myself, in our relationship, is when we leave our homes, it may not be the home that we left, but I know that I leave my home in a good fucking way. And this work allows me to return home, to my home, to restore how it was when I left. Because when I go home, it's not like how, it's a thing to walk back into the door and be present to the emotions, 3 girls, the experiences that I was not part of, the feelings of resentment, and where were you? Now take the kids. Now listen to me, you know?
Yeah. You held the space for all the men. Now it's time to hold the space for me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't at a retreat, right? You know, I'm a father of sons, and I've got a baby girl on the way. I see you as a girl dad in many ways. And I'm so excited for like this new experience and bringing in a daughter. What wisdom can you impart on me and with us around like raising daughters as a father? And yeah, what do I have to expect? What can I look forward to?
You can expect more of how you show up for Hannah, first and foremost. And she's a woman that has nurtured herself before she came into your life. Now you have the opportunity to meet her when she was first born.
Wow.
So think about that. Feel that.
Yeah.
Like, you are the nurturer, the provider, creating the safety, Sure, a son needs safety, but a woman, a little girl, a baby that's going to be in your arms, that's foundational.
Yeah.
For her flower to grow, for her to blossom, for her to rise. And yeah, you're Adam, so you're going to want to tweak the petals and make it look a certain way because you have a vision for her and her life. But different than a boy,
Yeah.
it's like, let it be in beauty. Let me be in presence with you and allow you to flourish and grow in a way that I know. I project myself into your shoes, and I'm like, if I was a father to a son,
Yeah.
I'd be out on the field, I'd be pushing them, I'd be wrestling them, I'd be getting them ready to be a fighter and a warrior and strong in their bodies and strong in their minds. And that's not how it is with my girls.
How is it?
Let me be with you. Let me just feel you. Let's flow in this river together. Let me learn from you the ways of your waters. And that's a lot different than let me be the banks and direct you in this line
Right.
that I perceive I would be as a father to a son. And by God, let's be clear, I would love to have a son.
Yeah.
Because I would love to be on that mission. It's more like mission work, I believe, with a son.
Yeah.
And with a daughter, it's more like in the flow.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to braiding hair. I'm looking forward. Like I've seen you in pink costumes. I've seen you as a unicorn before and birthday party.
Oh man, let's talk about the silly.
The silly, yeah.
It's like meeting them with that wonderment, that imagination, that joy.
That's what I see in your journey of fatherhood is like the wonderment. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I do have little savages running around, and we do wrestle. And with Noah, it's like he's playing chess. He's doing this, and there are these lanes, like you said, in the banks. But what about that sacred silly and that wonder? Yeah.
When I am with my daughters, and it's just us, there's moments where I catch myself as them looking at me. Mm-hmm. And there's these like very specific times where I just plug in to knowing what it's like to fully be in that moment of imagination and magic. And it doesn't happen throughout the course of, let's say, hanging out for hours. It happens only for a few moments, but those few moments help me tap into it because I remember it. And I come back to myself, really. I come back to the imagination that exists within me. So it enlivens me to be creative and harness that energy in the work that we bring home to these brothers. Mm-hmm. That is the inspiration for the work that I do with the men. And beyond that, if we want to go to the deep, for me as a father to daughters, the reason I show up for these men is so they can fucking show up for the women in their lives. Absolutely. And the daughters in their lives. And that we can take care of the women, because if we're not doing that, we're not doing anything right.
There's something that Tosca always says, like, the way you raise your girl is important because she's going to end up with someone just like you. And for some men, they're like, holy shit, no, I don't want that. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
And if you have that sentiment, like, I don't want my daughter to be with someone like me, time for the work, time for the inner work, for the reflection, and not just self-introspection, but time to get reflection from others so that you can be a man worthy of your own daughter, right? Worthy of your own seed, so that you can create the environment and like the standards of men that, you know, your daughters were, you know, your girls are young, so it's not quite there yet. But do you think about that? Do you think about like, wow, the way that I interact with them is going to inform them in all of their relationships?
That's a good point. No, I've surprised myself as being a father to daughters that I don't think about the next iterations of them. I'm very present with where they're at, and that will change as they start to take some steps further away from mom and dad and being next to us all the time. I'll start to want to kind of put my emphasis of directing them and making the right decisions. But right now, it's like I'm so present with where they're at that it's almost impossible for me to think about where they're going. And if I'm so focused and so present with them now in this way, at Ocean's 1.5, Gaim's 5 years old, that's what matters, is full presence. And that's also something that as a father to a son, I would I picture myself being more attentive to next steps in their journey, preparing them to be the athlete, right? The smart one, the intelligent one, the caring one. And with girls, it's nature. It's nature at its finest. Women are Mother Earth. So too are the children of those mothers that are daughters. So it's like, what do you do with Mother Earth? Do you try to accelerate the fruit tree to produce its fruit? No, you admire it for where it's at and allow for the growth to take place in its natural cycle.
All right. It all comes back to presence.
It's all presence. So that's all they want from us.
Totally.
That every child only wants presence, and they can't choose that presence for you. The individual has to make that choice for themselves. And that's very difficult for men specifically, because men have been conditioned to believe that their role in the lives of their child is to be the provider. And the more you're focused on providing and leaving the house and working, the less presence you're going to have in your child's life, which is why we're doing this work. Strict, like me and you and our leaders, why we do this work is so our children are in the work with us.
And also, I'm in this for the lifestyle. Like I'm home. I get so much time at home for the missions that we go on and for the weekends that we are present at, fully present here. I get that tenfold because when I go home, I'm fully home. And I love that about the lifestyle that we're creating for ourselves. So let's talk about where we are presently and also passing the torch. And I want to reintroduce you for people who don't know who you are. You know, people might know myself, Jay, Albert, the original triad. And you are a co-founder in this movement. We passed the torch to you because of the ways that you showed up in service to this mission. And so, yeah, what was that like for you? I remember, you know, you helped us at C1. You got sick. You weren't able to make it. But what's the journey of like coming into this and being passed the torch of leadership been like for you?
I'll start with, wow, it's been a lot of work for me, on myself. You guys have been great mirrors for me to look at pieces of myself that I need to look at and grow through, because I come from the lone wolf template. I'll do it myself. I got it. I don't need the help. Once it's successful, I'll call on the people to help me, and I'll be the boss guy.
Right.
So that was my track record. And so it's been humbling. Like there's been stages in my transitions or growth from, hey, we need a band manager. That's what you told me.
Originally, that's what we needed.
Yeah, and that's what I was. To now co-founder in this level of pure, essential equality and connection as doing this on this field.
Yeah.
And it's not, and that's, when I say that, it's a reflection of where I thought I was within the journey of partnership with you brothers. So the first stage, and it lasted for a good bit, was like looking to you all to tell me where we need to be as an organization before it became a multi-headed decision in co-leadership. Because I was seeking guidance in where is the mission of this going. And I see that with other brothers that are in our core team now too.
Right.
Like they're in the process of empowering themselves to get to the place where they don't have to ask the questions. Right. They don't have to be plugging in with the leaders to know where to go, because it's so embodied and ingrained in them that they're in the culture of it. So that was the first stage.
What I heard right there is that previously you're like, what's the vision? And I'm going to go execute.
Yes.
And now you're like, I'm a part of the vision.
Yes.
You know, like you're carrying the pieces of the vision and you have the vision for where we're going and what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's a big part.
That's a reflection of society too. We often can go and look to someone else to say, tell me what the vision is.
Yeah.
Right. I think part of men coming to this weekend is because they don't know their vision. Right. So they're coming in, they're asking for guidance, and what we're offering them is like, you have the vision, unlock it, right? So remove the dust from the gold that is underneath you so you can see the vision with yourself. But in the meantime, during this weekend, we're going to help nudge you in the direction, and maybe they're thinking that we have the vision, but it's actually them. And so that was a big uncovering for me. It's been 5+ years.
Yeah.
And the second stage of this journey with you brothers has been our vision.
Yeah. And the second stage also included Maui, Hawaii, and moving your family to Maui and bringing Sacred Sons to Maui for a time. I mean, that chapter has come to completion in some ways, but is there anything that's significant to you about that? I mean, you know, we went through so much to get here. And so what's been that? And like I'm saying, and what I'm introducing here is it's not just me, it's not just you. This is our family. This is our ancestors behind us too, which is why we're so devoted to this work.
I say it for me, but I say it for, I think of so many men when I say this that are in leadership with us. It's like, I'm willing to do anything for this. Maui is an example of that.
Yeah.
And in those doing anything for this, there's sacrifices made and there's losses that happen and there's challenges that come up. But this is my God-given mission on earth. And with that comes so much responsibility.
Yeah.
And in this work, more than other, because I've been in a very strongly defined purpose-driven project, which was my own, the weight, that burden is shared.
Yeah.
And I would say that more than anything else is why I continue to carry this. Because if it was just my stone to hold, it would weigh me down and then I would step out. I've done this. We're like, okay, you guys can hold the stone. I'm going to go do that next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that about the way that we're organized.
Which is what we're doing this weekend.
Yeah, but it just reminded me of like, yo, pass me the ball. Like you and I have like this healthy competitive nature, just like with each other. And I love it. And it's like, there's a part of us too, that's like, what's the next challenge? What's the next hurdle? Because we're not only going to be competitive with ourselves and each other, but with growing and expanding in a good way and calling men in a good way. And I love that about our particular relationship. And so, you know, a year ago, we had a massive ceremony in North Carolina, and the way that it opened was calling in all of the elders that were a part of the community in that gathering to pass us the torch, to give us permission to lead. And so we took that torch, we've gotten to this point, and now at this time we've trained hundreds of men all around the world. All around the world. And then in that 1 year, we've come back now at Convergence 8, the return, the same torch, and we just handed it off to a group of, 30 or so men that we are giving permission to lead in this work. What does that bring up for you? What does that mean to you?
It hits home. It's personal. You remember who passed that torch to me?
Yeah.
My father.
Bob.
Bob Slop. Yeah, so
right?
It's...
Yeah, your dad was there.
All the generations have been in this passing of the torch for my own personal story.
Yeah.
My actual father passed the torch of trust for me to lead him.
Wow.
Right? Which is reversing the roles. And that's our responsibility, I believe, of our generation too, is to guide the elders. And then for us to reach this place of fatherhood, of sacred sons, to trust our leaders, to father and support the men as brothers over these weekends. It's huge, man. Because my reflection, if you ask me at year 1, year 2, the thing that you, Jay, and Albert needed the most, it was to let go of the control. Yeah. And you weren't there. The mission of Sacred Sons was not ready for that.
Right.
But here we are in year 5. And because it's the trust of our leaders is there, because the structure is in place and it's held in a very safe way, we can let go of that torch. Yeah.
Another part of the role that you grabbed, I'm talking about this expansion, and if you're a sacred son and you're listening to this, you know. But for people broadly, they may not know. Like the reason that we are in, 15 countries on 4 continents and in multiple languages, including in Spanish down in Mexico, is largely because of you. And you, not only like in the training of the men, but finding those opportunities and those invitations out there for men to come in and lead. And so we've got an entire brotherhood in Mexico. Right now we've got a whole Spanish-speaking team out here in Los Angeles.
Claro que sí.
See? And we've got men from Europe who have traveled all this way. And so you are one who has largely kind of navigated and organized. Yeah.
It's all relationships.
It's all in the relationship.
It's all in the relationships.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And Philip talked about that last night too. Like what defines a life of health and abundance? It's not in the money. It's not in the power. It's in the relationships.
And to bring it back home, it's in the relationship. It starts with me. And from that place, I relate to who I'm closest to, my beloved. And how I show up to that relationship is how I showed up to all the relationships within the men in the brotherhood that allowed us to grow at the rate and pace that we did. And so if I'm showing up at home, bringing it back home, like I'm showing up to this brotherhood optimally, clearly, and open-hearted. So I can't stress enough how important it is to show up to these weekends for the men and just focus on the relationships that are at home. Like, no one's asking you to be a leader. No one's asking you to hold space for men or reach out and call in a group of people to do this. What this work is inviting all men to do is show up right with your relationship to self. Exactly. And then those that are in your house and the rest of the world, all your relations will respond accordingly to that framework that you've established for yourself.
And in society, largely, it's inverted. They're like, men, leave your house, go to work, grind, make that money. And like you said earlier, like then you go home and you're not present and you kind of zone out and check out. And all that energy is given to relationships that may not be in alignment with who you actually are. And so we have the fortune of being like in full alignment, not only with our purpose and our purposes individually, but with that collective mission. It's something that I feel like is pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's happening for these men too is they're drinking from the well of our relationship, whether they know it or not.
And the relationship with Paul,
exactly,
Jay, and how that goes out.
They're feeling something, they can't put their finger on it, but what they're feeling is the safety, love, connection that we have in leaders, and that's inviting them in to feel with men that they just met yesterday for the first fucking time, a level of connection that perhaps they've never felt in their lives.
Yeah. Because
it's rippling out to them. The work that we've been doing with each other on the scene of Sacred Sons.
Yeah. And so what's like, I see you as a disciplined person. I see you as someone who can handle a lot and who takes on a lot, What's kind of some of your tools? What are some of your pieces of leadership for a brother who's listening? Who's like, all right, I'm kind of hearing what they're saying. I kind of get it. But like, what are some of the practical, tangible pieces for you as Neil that are like, this is foundation?
This is foundation. This is non-negotiable. I don't care how busy of a man I am, and I'm busy. I have a lot going on. Neil takes care of himself. I get it in. Well, however, I get in my time for myself is how I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I saw you running out like 7 a.m.
Exactly.
Like trails.
I need it. I show up to everything right because of that.
What's happening? What's happening in that taking care of yourself time?
I'm in prayer. I'm praying to the mission of my life, to all my relations, to my connection, to myself. I'm bringing it to my ancestors, and it happens in so many forms because I'm Neil and I like to dabble in so many different things. I'm surfing, I'm running, I'm working out, I'm doing the nines, I'm drinking my nice tea, I'm meditating, I'm doing qigong, kundalini. Like, I'm all over the place. But because I'm all over the place, especially in those sacred hours of the morning, or sometimes it's just a little window, by God, I see my child smile, and I really see it. I listen to my wife because she really needs me to listen. And if I don't take care of myself, I'm not taking care of anything in my house. Because I come from a history of men that have sacrificed. My father sacrificed because that's what he was taught what to do. Instead of choose to take care of yourself first. I remember having conversations with my parents when I was in my mid-20s. And it was like steered in this direction of like, Neil, you're so self-centered because you are feeding yourself so much with taking care of yourself. That's how they perceived it. And I respect that that's where they came from. Right? But my father was out the door at 6 a.m. to provide for his family because that's what he truly aligned with and thought he needed to do. And that doesn't say that he wasn't there for my little league baseball game or soccer game. He rushed to get there. But where was the time for my dad to take care of himself? Because what I experienced and what I hear him say now is he was stressed out, fearful, didn't think there would ever be enough. And I perceive it's because he didn't find the window that he deserved.
Man, I think there's a lot of men who carry that story. The stress you mentioned, there's not enough, and just like head down, keep grinding. And that's a piece that, I think it's time to shed the mask of like the hustler and always having to grind. Because if it truly is about relationships and relationship to self, then who are you doing it for? Are you grinding for a corporation? You're grinding, are you grinding out of fear, out of lack? And it's a very difficult shift to make. I even remember you saying to me, because you were kind of like, you had jumped ship on, let's say, corporate or kind of like the typical standard culture that many men kind of go through. Graduate college, get a job, grind for a company, get burned out. That's what I see a lot of. Your path is very different. Could you just speak on like, what?
It was a defined moment in time where if I don't get out now, I may end up in this forever. Because the world was reflecting to me and my relations were telling me that I was successful and I was getting held down in that identity of this is where you should be based off of society's standards. And I decided to jump out the window, essentially, and say, this has never been me. I'm a chameleon. I know how to fit into the structures of what society thinks a successful man is. I come from privilege. And so by my design, I was made to be successful in the traditional American culture and society. And I decided I need to get the fuck out of this house because this is not who I am.
And who are you?
And I remembered who I was. And I remembered instances in my life where different members of my family showed me, reflected to me who I was by seeing my grandfather hike the Appalachian Trail for charity to them building houses for impoverished communities and marginalized individuals. And I was like, that's actually who I am. I remembered. And I almost forgot.
And when I just heard it, it's like, I'm not self-centered. I'm a man of service.
Yes. And so, and I'm a man of extremes. That's why I found Sacred Sons. Like, I'm going deep. As far as I can go, I'm going to go. And so I literally trekked out to the jungles of Panama to start a nonprofit to give back to the communities in a way that felt authentically Neil. Like, this is me. As far out as it is for everybody that knows me, there's a part of them too that we're seeing Neil on his journey to start this nonprofit, reclaiming what he had forgot about himself in this work. And it set me up so beautifully for Sacred Sons because I've been here in a way that I don't think you've been here before. Your band, perhaps. right? Like, I've been in the place where like, this is it. This is my everything. I've gave it all to that project. And so I'm experiencing myself, and 5 years in, I experienced the 5-year in Neil with Give and Serve.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching myself go through the same motions of empowering others, leading from behind, trusting, not holding on so much, and watching the garden grow.
So speaking to a brother or someone who's listening, that's like, damn, that's me. I'm in a burning building. The door is right there, but it's scary too.
Oh, it's so scary.
You know?
And once you jump out of the building, it's so relieving. It's like, why was that so hard? To quit my job, to end that relationship, to choose me. You're choosing yourself. And
it's not even quitting a job. It's choosing yourself,
choosing yourself,
your fullness. And sometimes there's so much unknown. That's why it's scary.
Yeah.
Because it's the unknown. Maybe it was safer to be a part of the vision that happened 100 years ago and you just happened to land that gig. But the vision of like who I actually am and walking through that door into the unknown can be terrifying.
It can
also be.
It's so
exciting. It can be exciting. It can be.
And you're going to feel alone in it. People, your relationships, because you've established the individual that's ready to hop out of the house that's burning, you're going to lose many of your relationships. People aren't going to understand you. They're going to question you because you're creating insecurity, and then because they're in the same burning house that you decide to leave. And you're not validating their choices to be in the corporate world or be in a unloving relationship that they need to get out of.
Yeah.
So it's bringing things up in them, but that by God, any man, woman, child that has the capacity to exit a version of themselves that they don't wish to be part of anymore, you have to make that choice. And what I see in this work is we are calling men into an opportunity to make those choices immediately when they get home. Like a good brother on my team in Scotland, he came to this work and he thought he was showing up for purpose work. Mm-hmm. When what he really needed to do was go home and step into his own house and claim to his beloved that he's been with for 7 years that for the first time, I love you. Mm-hmm. Right? That's also stepping into your same house and rearranging the entire makeup of it. It's not that you just need to hop out of relationships if it's not working. Sometimes you need to go into the relationship and shift the whole narrative. Because just think about that. If you're in a relationship with someone and you haven't expressed I love you for 7 years, and then to experience that after coming out of a Sacred Sons weekend.
That's not even possible.
I don't know. But for him, it was.
Yeah, it's probably happening in other ways.
And he was ready to show up to like, I want to get the tools so I can be a leader in men's work.
This is what people forget all the time. It's like, I want to find purpose. Where's my purpose? As if it's outside of themselves. Mm-hmm. And my philosophy is like, you're always on purpose. It's just how connected to it are you actually? Mm-hmm. And especially for fathers, like a lot of men come here and it's like, hey, I'm a dad and I got kids and I got my job. And I'm like, sounds great. Like, what's wrong with that? It's like, well, there's more. Cool. Well, let's take steps to claim that more, but don't come with the predisposition that something about what's already happening is holding us back. Mm-hmm. It's like, can we go back and give fullness, give energy, give life and love to the relationships that we already have, and watch how that fills our cup up, and watch how we go, oh yeah, this is a part of my purpose. What purpose could be any greater than raising a child on planet Earth in this time?
Yeah.
This is purposeful work. And if you don't like the word work, this is purposeful stewardship, tending to, of the gardens of humanity. Like, that's what we're doing as fathers.
That's the person that you live on through. That's your legacy.
That is the legacy, right?
That's the most important thing. And I'll bring it back into like our leadership community. A lot of men show up, and why they think they're showing up is to lead other men. And the first step in this work of Sacred Sons is, are you ready to lead yourself?
Yeah.
We don't ask these men, hey, you ready to go hold space for men? It's like, how are you leading yourself in your own life?
Yeah.
When the doors are closed, when you're not at a men's weekend, how are you showing up in those relationships?
Yeah. What do you do when no one's watching?
Yeah.
This is the big question.
Yeah.
For a lot of men.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and a lot of men that we think are doing it right when nobody's watching, we learn that they're not.
And oftentimes in society, we find out too late. Mm-hmm. And we hear the stories of like, you know, it seemed like they had it all together. They had the perfect picturesque thing. And it's like, and now he's gone. Mm-hmm. And he's taken his own life because he wasn't able to be honest. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't willing to share the truth of who he actually is.
Yeah.
And, you know, like suicide is it's like the number one killer of men from 20 to 40 in our country. Mm-hmm. It's the number one killer. If there was anything else, if it was a substance, if it was you know, some other form, like we would we would shine so many lights on it as a society. And I feel like it's not, because as in the collective, it's like a collective shadow. This need to like hide all the things that aren't working and to appear shiny, like for who? For what?
Society does not have a place that feels home to what you're speaking of. A home for the despair, the depression, the fear.
Right. And
in that, men choose to keep that to themselves, because we know this. Your woman or mom is not the place for that.
Right.
Here is. We've created that. And so I even think about my personal story. My mother's father took his life.
Same.
Yeah.
My mom's dad committed suicide when she was 17.
Yeah, my granddad's committed suicide, and why is that, I ask myself. And the conclusion that I arrive at is he didn't know where to go with this.
Exactly. Because of that grinding
It wasn't
culture that I'm
safe.
talking about, you can grind and grind and grind until you find yourself in a dead end. And then what? And that's like largely what's happening out there. These guys are finding themselves at a dead end, believing they're alone in it. But we know here, like, we're never alone. We're not alone. Not only do we have our brothers, we have our ancestors behind us, within us, ahead of us, our future children. We're not alone in this life. However, so many men feel isolated in their suffering. Mm-hmm. And you know, man, you know, I carry that story of my mom being 17 years old. She was pregnant with my sister, and she was the one that found him. You know? And so there's a part of me, I feel the responsibility to give back in these ways, in this work, because I don't want it to happen again. You know, I don't want that story to permeate and to penetrate people's lives.
And I don't even feel that my grandfather would need to come to a men's weekend to know that it's okay and safe to feel what he needed to feel instead of take his life. I believe that men and women out there knowing that this exists is enough.
Yes.
Is enough for them to continue to say, yes, I'm going to keep living.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to believe that there's another path for me. I'm not going to take my life.
Let's bring it right back to leadership. Are you ready to lead yourself? We're asking that question to men who are seen as leaders in their professions, already have the leadership trainings and all the seminars. What's different about our prime leadership? What's different when men come to training with Sacred Sons?
You can't fake this shit at Sacred Sons. So it's about embodiment. Like we know if you're ready to lead yourself and if you are leading yourself. And you know that too. And the first thing that we'll bring to men's experience as they step into our leadership containers, if it's online or in person, is where are you at? Get honest.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust a man that's not honest. And none of us should trust leading a man that has not been honest with themselves. So that's why Sacred Sons is different. Out there, because you have the credentials, the title, the prestige, you're granted access to others' perception that you're a leader.
Yeah.
But in Sacred Sons, that's not it at all. We say, I trust you because you bared it all.
Yeah.
I trust you because you showed me a part of yourself that made me know that you feel safe to be a puddle of feelings, you know? And from that place,
to feel again for the first time in a very long time.
yeah. And from that place, I'm like, okay, now we're ready to lead. I'll show you me too, right? I've seen you, you've seen me. Now I can trust to lead.
Yeah. There's a part of our training that's less like giving you more of like, here, now try this on, put this tool in your toolbox, do this. And it's like, what happens when you strip you down there?
Yeah.
Not literally, but metaphorically. What happens when you're stripped of all of it? Who are you now? Who are you then? And putting it back together from that point with the tools, with the training, with the deep listening, with the authentic relating, and then getting multiple reps in order to practice that.
And so when men go through that process, unlike other training modalities, it's, hey, we're not giving you the instructions of how to be. Now you have your own instruction manual to lead yourself at home.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. It's not ours. I'm not dropping off links to men about like, now here's how to go to the next step in your journey. It's like you have the instruction manual because you are embodied in it. You actually feel it. You understand it. You're clear on your vision.
Yeah.
And that's for you to pave the way.
That's the piece of embodiment. If anyone's confused in all of these years of us speaking to embodiment, it's the embodiment of the vision, mission, and purpose within that starts to illuminate.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Philip Folsom said that amazing line last night. Basically, like, are you cooking a meal or are you reading the cookbook?
Mm-hmm.
And like, we're not giving men the cookbook. We're serving men the meal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're teaching men how to make that meal for themselves. Mm-hmm. Not by giving them the cookbook, not by asking them to sit with it.
Yeah.
And to actually
their own meal.
Get your hands in there.
What is your meal?
Yeah.
What do you provide all your relations?
Yeah.
Is the path within leadership. And don't get it twisted. There's a lot of men that choose this leadership pathway with us because they're inspired and they want to be in community leading men in the ways that we do. But that's not what it's about either. It's like you're already leading men in your community without calling in a men's circle or an immersion or an EMX. Just by your presence, just by being embodied in the spirit of what these weekends are.
Yes.
You are a leader. And that's what our leadership pathway is.
Exactly. I had a man just yesterday. He's like, I don't know if I'm a leader. And my response is like, there are people in your life already, right now, who are looking to you as a leader.
Yeah.
And who are looking to you.
Every relationship is looking to you to lead.
Absolutely.
And be co-led and follow.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful dance.
Yeah.
And no one designates that you are now a leader. I declare you a leader. Now go out and lead. It's your choice to say, I am a leader in my own life. It's arriving to the realization as a man in this pathway that like, oh shit, no one had to give me that title of leader. I'm going to show up and lead.
Right.
From taking my shoes off and putting them at the door and cleaning up after myself to hugging my children in a way that I've never hugged them before, to getting in the car and meditating versus looking at God, who knows what, you know, like that is the choice that men take from these weekends and within our pathways. Like, oh, I'm a leader.
Yeah.
And I can show up in all ways as a leader.
Yeah. All right. So in your way, invite a brother in to Prime Leadership. Prime Leadership is specifically designed for men who want to lead in this work, for men who want to train with the founders and the core team of Sacred Sons.
We get men to that place where they know they're now a leader. Prime Leadership is for a man that knows he is ready. There's no doubt. There's no question. Like, this is for me. I'm a leader, and I know that showing up in this work is going to accelerate me further on my path, in my purpose. And it's a fully committed guy. Like the bros that are showing up to Prime Leadership, it's like, yup, you're ready. And it's not because you know the tool. It's not because you have the toolbox with all the tools to do the work that we do. It's because you're fully in.
Yeah.
Like I see myself in all the containers. I see myself, the energy of the men at Prime Leadership. I see myself in them in the same way that I showed up for you, Jason and Albert, and this brotherhood. It's like, yes, I was a Prime Leadership brother.
Yeah.
I was on the accelerated path.
Prime Leadership accelerated path. And we have men coming in who are doctors, who are, trained physicians, who are district attorneys, who are musicians, like men coming from all walks of life and what we typically see as leaders, right? But they're coming to Sacred Sons Prime Leadership because they know there's something essential that they haven't gotten from their training thus far. And it's about the inner work. It's about that connection. It's about the leading from the heart and not leading from the mind. I would just go to say, like, the way that we formulated, or the way that it's been structured in culture is all leading from the mind. But here you are, the heart-led man. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
That shift can be everything.
Yeah.
Even for the man who's already successful, even for the man who has a practice, even for the man who has friends, like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like,
I even think of the men in these most recent Prime Leaderships. We had, and to your point, it's not about come to a Sacred Sons event and now flip the script on your life and choose to jump out the house. It's like, no, come back to your house with the leadership that is now embodied in you. Show up to the oil rig field like the brother that we had and lead in that way with men that you could judge have no business being in the energy of what we do at Sacred Sons, yet they fucking need it more than anything else. Like the attorneys that are now working in government that have come to Prime Leadership, or the brothers
or just
public education, and now they're stepping in with the leadership that they received and they're embodied in Sacred Sons with.
And then there's the other brothers who own businesses, or the firefighters, and they take some of the pieces that we provide in relation and they bring it back to their people. That's Prime Leadership. That's like, I'm going to take this culture that's working, that's been cultivated and nurtured, and I'm going to bring it into my community and watch the ripples happen that way. Yeah. That's something I think a lot of people may not see, because there's a piece here I want to say. Sacred Sons is not limited to men's work. Like, what we are doing is shifting culture for men broadly and for humanity and all the ways that ripples out. And sometimes the biggest ripple can just be with an authentic check-in with a brother on that job site, on your team, in your sphere.
And he does not even know that he is touching something connected to a Sacred Sons weekend. Right. But what he's feeling is connection. What he's feeling is an invitation to be vulnerable. What he's experiencing is authentic relating.
Yeah. And then he's experiencing the leadership of a good leader.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's taking that on to his next conversation.
Yeah.
Seen, it's so much seen and unseen.
Yeah. I think it was Philip last night. He was just like, or maybe it was Matoska, but the ripples of impact are immeasurable, because that one moment where you just deeply check in with someone and really ask them and really listen, like, they're going to carry that through their whole day and every single person that they encounter for the rest of that day.
Yeah.
And so, like, the way that we're working with energy here, it's very different than I feel like anything I've ever learned before. So with that, we're going to begin to wrap. I want to give you an opportunity. Invite a brother into Prime Leadership, invite a brother into leadership training. This is the call in. What do you have to say?
If not now, when? Everything in your life has been so succinctly leading up to moments, defining moments, where you can choose to step into that next part of yourself that deserves to be in a connective place with all your relations. So I invite you in to lead alongside us and see what happens. See how your relationships shift. See how your love grows. See how you're able to better show up for your mother, father, children, loved ones. This is prime leadership. This is the leadership pathway at Sacred Sons. I can speak for myself. I am a better man in all my relations because of the work in Sacred Sons, because of the work in these containers, specifically prime leadership. And the world is seeing it, you know?
And men, the world needs you. Make no mistake, the world needs you now. Yeah.
I can't say it enough. What are we doing as men if we're not investing in ourselves? If we're not reaching deep into who we are and saying yes with our resources?
Yeah. With that, that was the invitation. I wanted to say one. I want to give you one more piece because I want to make it full circle. I want to bring it back to the daughters because by the time this actually comes out, I got my baby girl coming, and I woke up this morning. I messaged Hannah. I was just like, I could just cry thinking about her already, you know, because it's getting to that point. It's like it's happening. To the mothers, to the daughters, thank you. Thank you for giving us life. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for feeding us and nourishing us with your love, with your hearts. And we're going to do better. We're going to be better for you. That's what I want to say. What do you want to say to the women?
I just want to speak to my
Yes,
girls. Catherine, Ocean, and Gaiam. You are so beautiful and so safe with Daddy. The love that I have for you, it lives inside you. And the love that you have for me lives inside me. And every time I come for these weekends, I come so I can show up as a father and a husband to you. And I hope you feel that. I hope you know that. And I hope men and women across the world know that the very best thing that can nurture a loving father is connection to brothers in this way. So, fathers specifically, come be with us and see how you show up for your sons and daughters. I want to just say this too, since we got a brother behind the camera who has lived with all of our children.
Oh, wow. Brickman?
Thank you, man. For being in our families in the way that you do. My children fucking love you. And you're like their first friend. Their first uncle. So thank you. 303 party. I love you, bro. That's Brick Bain, Director of Media.
Yeah.
Shout out.
A real leader in Sacred Sons. And with that, here comes the music. Let's go. Hey, 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 hey. With that, Neil Christiansen, Gaiam, Ocean, Catherine, Adam Jackson, Johan, Noah, Colin. Hey! Love you. We're out, family. Peace.